بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم صلى على رسول الله. فصل في مكروهات الوضوء. So the chapter discusses some of the acts which are disliked, and we covered it the previous week, but just to quickly rehash, there were some details that I forgot to mention. So there are 6 things which are otherwise disliked in wudu. The first amongst them, al-israf fil ma', wasting water. This is disliked. It's repugnant, and it's due to the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He passes by one of the companions, and that particular companion was making wudu, and the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that don't waste water. Don't waste water. And this companion said that is there wastage in wudu? So the Prophet ﷺ elaborated and said that yes, even if you were doing wudu, performing wudu at a stream, to use more water than necessary, this constitutes wastage. And I mentioned the previous week that Rasulullah ﷺ, he would do wudu from a mud. That was the medium of measurement in those days. So one of them was mud and the other was sa'. Mud and sa'. So one mud, this was the mud that Rasulullah ﷺ, he would do wudu with. And this particular mud, the dimensions of it and the shape of it was passed down from Anas radiallahu anh all the way to present day. And it's approximately 750 milliliters of water. 750 milliliters of water. One mud is 750 milliliters of water. So this is in stark contrast to how we do wudu today. We're very careless when performing the wudu, because nowadays, due to the abundance of water where we're living, the region that we're from, we tend to turn on the faucets full blast. Hot and water, the hot and cold, we tend to turn them on full blast. This is against not only is it against the sunnah, this is not recognizing the ni'am of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not recognizing the blessing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has bestowed upon us. So water, this is a very great blessing. It shouldn't be just used. And this will diminish the quality of our wudu, and it will have an impact on our salat as well. If we're not observing the sunnah of wudu, if we are not observing those things which are disliked, then this will have an impact on our prayer. It will affect our prayer. So we have to observe the sunnah and refrain from those things that Rasulullah ﷺ disliked. So wastage of water, this is completely, there's just no excuse. Just use that much water which is sufficient to perform wudu. This is why in masajid, there's many masjids that have taken measures today. Many masjids that have taken measures where they have, water-saving features. They're there for a purpose. Those water-saving features are there for a reason. That reason is so that people, they don't waste water, unnecessary water. And this water, this is one of the greatest blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. This is why there's just so many hadith just about providing water to an area that doesn't have water. Why is there so many hadith about providing water, giving water as waqf, making water as an endowment? What is the reasoning behind this? The reasoning behind this is because water is a great blessing. Water is a great ni'mah. So when we come to the masjid, when we perform wudu, try to avoid putting on the faucets at full blast. This is wasting masjid resources, and again, this is considered a very repugnant act. This is a disliked act. Also, what taqtir fihi, it's disliked to use less water to the extent that water doesn't flow from the limbs. This is also disliked, because then it's not really ghusl. You're not washing, then you're just wiping. You're not washing, you're wiping. And that's, if you're wiping, then the wudu is incomplete. The wudu is not even valid. Okay. The Prophet ﷺ mentions, خَيْرُ الْأُمُورِ أَوْسَطُهَا. خَيْرُ الْأُمُورِ أَوْسَطُهَا. That the best in everything is that we always take the middle ground, the middle course. So we should not use less water as well to the extent that it becomes wiping. We want to wash. We want to wash. We want to make sure that at least 2-3 drops fall from the limbs. وَضَرْبُ الْوَجْهِ بِهِ. Slapping water onto the face. This is also repugnant. It's disliked, that you take water and you throw it onto the face. This is disliked. And the reason behind it is that the wudu, it should be performed gently. Right? إِنَّ اللَّهَ قَدْ كَتَبَ الْإِحْسَانَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ. That verily Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prescribed perfection and ihsan upon everything. So when we perform the wudu, we should make sure that we perform the wudu in a manner that decorum is observed. Decorum is observed. The face, this is an honor. Right? The face that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, this is an honor from Allah. Why would we want to hit it? Not to mention that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned in the hadith not to hit the face. So why should we hit the face with water? And again, this is against the decorum, against the etiquette of wudu. وَالتَّكَلُّمْ بِكَلَامِ النَّاسِ. To talk to people, just general speech. This speaking words like how common people would speak. So specifically words where a person becomes oblivious of what they're doing. I mean, the wudu is a time for concentration. It's a time of focus, that we have to focus during the wudu. That's what the wudu is for. The wudu is not an opportunity for us to talk to our neighbor, if that neighbor happens to be doing wudu at that time. And especially talking about those things which would make us oblivious from the task at hand. The task at hand is what is important. Observe the sunan, observe the etiquettes, and observe the wudu, and try to envision during the wudu that with this wudu, I'm going to do this particular salat. And this particular salat that I will perform, this will be a means for me to connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what the salat is for. The salat is to have a communion with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And one cannot have a communion with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if the wudu doesn't have all of the sunan observed. The etiquettes are not being observed. And those things which are disliked, they are being done. So such a wudu is going to be void of any kind of spirituality. وَتَثْلِيثُ الْمَسْحِ بِمَاءٍ جَدِيدٍ. The author says that it is also makruh, it is also disliked that when wiping the head to do it thrice. Because, and this is strictly according to the Hanafi school, that according to the other schools, they have to use new water thrice. Right? But according to the Hanafi school, it's just once. So the Quran states, مَمْسَحُوا بِرُؤُوسِكُمْ, that wipe your heads. Right? Wipe your heads. So that it's only done once. Wiping heads is done once. If you wipe 3 times, according to the Hanafi school, this is washing. And this would fall within the parameters of wasting water. Right? So this is why wiping is sufficient. Now, فَصْلٌ فِي أَقْسَامِ الْوُضُوءِ. The next chapter, so these are just some of the things that I wanted to mention, which I forgot to mention the previous week. So the wudu, there's categories of wudu, and the wudu is of 3 types. It's categorized into 3 types. الأول فرض المحدث للصلاة ولو كانت نفلا ولصلاة الجنازة وسجد التلاوة ولمس القرآن ولو آية. So the first type of wudu which is prescribed, which is fard, which is mandatory, is the wudu for someone who is in the state of minor impurity. So this disqualifies everyone who is in the state of major impurity. So examples of major impurity: nocturnal emission. Right? This is a sign of major impurity. Okay, this is one example. So wudu would not be sufficient for such a person. This person it would be incumbent upon that person to take a bath. So wudu is strictly for the individual who is in the state of minor impurity. And that person wants to offer a prayer. Even if that prayer is nafil. Even if that prayer is nafil. Even if it is a funeral prayer. Even if it is a funeral prayer. Even if it is a sajda tilawa. And touching the Quran. So all of these things would require wudu. So fardun al-muhdin lis-salat walau kanat naflan. So it is the first type of wudu which is mandatory and strictly for the person who is in the state of minor impurity, is for that person who wants to offer salat, walau kanat naflan, even if that salat is supererogatory, wali salat al-janaza, even if this person wants to conduct janaza prayer. Even in that situation, wudu is incumbent, wudu is necessary. And it's also obligatory, it is also fard and mandatory that if a person wants to do sajda tilawat. So for example, if a person is walking and reciting the Quran, he has the Quran memorized, and he comes across a verse of sajda tilawat, he cannot do sajda tilawat. He can't do sajda tilawat in that state. What he will have to do is he will have to do wudu, and then he will do sajda tilawat. Because sajda, this is a part of salat. And every part of salat requires wudu. Every part of salat requires wudu. وَلَمْسِ الْقُرْآنِ وَلَوْ آيَةٍ, even touching a Quran, this also requires wudu, even if it is one verse. Wudu is a requisite. وَالثَّانِي وَاجِبٌ لِلطَّوَافِ بِالْكَعْبَةِ. The second type of wudu is wajib. So I mentioned the distinction in the Hanafi school between fard and wajib. So the difference over here is a little bit clear, because if a person does tawaf without wudu, according to the Hanafi school, the tawaf, it's correct, but it's severely disliked. It is severely disliked. And if this person has done it intentionally, then that person is a sinner. It's a severe sin. So one should always perform the tawaf in a state of wudu. So if tawaf is omitted for whatever reason, then that tawaf, if that wudu is omitted from the tawaf for any reason, then that tawaf is complete, but it is makruh. It is severely repugnant. So wajib lit-tawaf bil-Ka'bah. وَالثَّالِث مَنْدُوبٌ لِلنَّوْمِ عَلَى طَهَارَةٍ وَإِذَا اسْتَيْقَظَ مِنْهُ وَلِلْمُدَاوَمَةِ عَلَيْهِ. The third type of wudu is mandub. It's mustahab. It's mustahab. So to sleep in a state of wudu, this is mustahab. To wake up, وَإِذَا اسْتَيْقَظَ مِنْهُ, to wake up from sleep and perform wudu is mustahab. وَلِلْمُدَاوَمَةِ عَلَيْهِ. And to be in a continuous state of wudu, after one's wudu breaks, to perform wudu again, this is also from the mustahabbat. It is also from the recommended acts. وَلِلْوُضُوء عَلَى الْوُضُوء. It's also recommended, it's also mustahab for one in a state of wudu to refresh their wudu. So if a person already has wudu and then he refreshes it, even if he has wudu, this is from the mustahabbat. And this is permissible. And this is a good thing to do. And there's great rewards upon this. وَبَعْدْ غِيبَةٍ وَكِذْبٍ وَنَمِيمَةٍ. It's also recommended that one performs wudu if that person was involved in a sin, such as backbiting, lying, slander. Right? Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran that if a person commits sin, then do a good act. And the wudu, this is a good act. This is a spiritual act. Right? When a person performs the wudu, it comes in hadith that the sins, they leave ma'a akhiri qatr al-ma, with the last drop of water. So this is why wudu in these types of situations where a person has committed sins, such as backbiting, lying, slander, one should do wudu because the sins leave ma'a akhiri qatr al-ma, with the last drop of water. Inshallah, we'll stop over here and continue next week. Any questions? Open the floor for questions.
So, washing face with one hand.
Yes.
Or two hands.
Yes.
Make difference.
Yeah, so the sunnah is to wash with two hands. If a person washes with one, it's sufficient. It's not from the makruh acts. But you want to encompass the entire face.
Also, if you delay part of the wudu, is that acceptable? Or
Delay the wudu?
part of it. For example, you wash your face and hands and face and massa,
Yes.
and then walk, let's say, for a minute or two to wash.
It's makruh to do that.
Huh?
It's makruh to do that. So there has to be wila. It's called wila. I think we covered this chapter like 3 sessions back, maybe?
Should be back to that.
Yeah. It should be back to back, yeah. There shouldn't be a delay.
But sometimes over here, maybe a little bit necessity, like if you try to perform wudu in a bathroom,
Yes.
let's say if it is in work or somewhere, you cannot wash your feet in a public bathroom, then you probably take a water and walk away.
That's fine.
So
Yeah, that's fine.
In that case,
Yeah, it's okay.
So in case of, massaging the head, if you just put your hands once, but you just do it like 3 times repeatedly. So
According to the Hanafi school, that would be makruh. Because for us, it's just once. More than that, we would consider that as washing.
to wet your hands just once.
Yeah. Oh, if it's one time, then it's still once. Yeah, it still would be once. So to do it more, at most, it would be against sunnah. Yeah, to wipe the head more than once, even with if you wet the hand one time. Yeah. So at most, it would be against the sunnah. Probably not makruh, but against the sunnah.
In that case, do you have to cover every part of your head?
Yeah, encompass the entire head. So the entire head is sunnah. So 1/4 is fard. According to the Hanafi school, 1/4 is fard. And the rest of it is sunnah. Yeah.
So during the winter time, what happens is every time you try to make wudu, you have to let the water flow for to run until you feel the warm water. Is it okay in this scenario?
Yeah, in that scenario, yes, it is okay. It's okay to do that. Otherwise, it's a little bit uncomfortable, especially in the winter because it's winter and there's a possibility of getting sick. So yeah, it would be okay.
And when you're trying to make wudu and then you break in the middle, do you have to start from the beginning or?
When you're making wudu,
Yes.
okay, and then you take a break.
I mean, if the wudu breaks.
Yeah, then you would have to start over. Yeah. So yes, so if during wudu, if a person is in the middle of wudu, and then for whatever reason the wudu breaks, then yes, you would have to renew. You would have to start all over again. Yes.
And one other question I had was, when you're following the imam and then you're in the prayer, and so when when you say Allahu Akbar and then you go to, and you make either to ruku or sajda. So, for example, if I take my own time and then within that time, by the time I perform what I'm supposed to be performing, and you come back, and you say Allahu Akbar, so is my salah broken?
I didn't understand the question.
So, for example, when you go into sajda, and then I take my own time, and then I don't go into sajda,
Okay.
and then by the time,
Okay, got it.
yeah.
Okay. No, your salat is not broken.
Okay.
Yeah, your salat is not broken. But when one should not delay, whatever position a masbook finds the imam in, that position must be done at that time. There shouldn't be a delay. It's not recommended to do that. So for example, if a person comes in, if a latecomer comes to the salat, finds the imam in sajda, then there's no need to wait. Just observe the sajda after the takbiratul tahrima. So after takbiratul tahrima, then do the takbir and go into the sajda. Follow the imam. There's no need to wait. There's many people that do that they wait to ascertain the position of the imam or to ascertain which sajda it is. it's not recommended to do that.
So you have to just quickly follow the imam.
Yes.
And be slow on it.
Yeah. Just quickly follow the imam. If for whatever reason there is a delay, it doesn't affect the validity of the prayer. Prayer is done.
The makruh here is a sin or small sin like sin?
So it would be considered as like wastage. Yes, that would be a sin. So some of them are less than the other. Others would be makruh tanzihi, meaning that the repugnance is of a lesser level. So not a sin, just not recommended to do. Yeah.
For Salat al-Janaza, is the wudu fard or?
Yeah, wudu is fard. Yeah.
Like many people, they do the tayammum.
Yeah, tayammum, that would be okay.
The water is available.
Yeah, that would be okay if a person didn't have access to water. Or the janaza salat was about to finish.
I think that.
Yeah, then it would be okay.
But that's based on all schools or just?
This is definitely based on the Hanafi school. I'm not sure about the other schools. I would have to check it out.
So for the second time it's wajib for Allah.
Yes.
And then you purposely do that, and after that it's a penalty for the tawaf.
Yeah.
You purposely didn't have a wudu. Or maybe, even maybe you forget or whatever.
Yeah.
Right?
So the tawaf is done.
Tawaf is done.
Tawaf is done. Tawaf is complete.
Tawaf is complete.
Yes.
And then, so that is a penalty.
There is no penalty unless because technically a person can do tawaf even outside of ihram. Yeah. But yeah, there would be, if a person is in ihram, then yeah, there would probably be a penalty. I would have to check it out. That I would have to check out if there's a penalty.
Well, maybe this weekend we can say.
Yeah. Subhanallah. Subhanallah. Astaghfirullah.